Hello. Good to see you all. Thanks for your patience. Let me try to make sure that this thing's connected right. So I decided not to prepare anything specific because I knew this would be out of my element per se. But I'm going to add, cool, 20 minutes. So I'm going to add on to some of pretty much what everybody else said from my perspective as somebody who treats Airbnb as a business and not an investment strategy. Because who here has been watching my channel? So who knows me? Okay, cool. Who here has an Airbnb already? So we got some, right? Who here has more than one? A few of you, cool. All right. So I want to start with Derek since he's gone. The one thing that, well, he sucks. Well, let's fresh in mind in order to get the first guy to talk, right? So a lot of what you guys talked about is how much money do you need to make in order to get a loan. So on the Airbnb side, like with the way I build my business, I write off 100%, which is kind of cool. I'll tell you about it. So you can write off your rents, right? You pay rent, obviously it's a write-off, but until 2023, you can write off 100% of your FF&E first year. So you buy your beds, you buy your couches, you buy the plates, everything that goes in your Airbnb is 100% written off. So hypothetically, if you wanted to go and buy a property next year and you wanted to amp up your incomes, what you can do is you can start an Airbnb business with however much money you have. And typically, for me, I get into a property for $4,000 out the door or live, $4,000, which is nice. Sometimes up to $6,000 if I have to pay some rents to get into the property or some deposits, but I negotiate hard with landlords and pretty much lean on them like, you need me, you need my rent, so we're gonna get terms that are good for me. And so you're in for like $4,000 and you recuperate, you try to recuperate that investment and you can reinvest all that money back in and buy more couches and more beds. And all that stuff that you do through 2020, like through January 1st, let's say you've cash flowed like $100,000 because you keep investing $4,000 at a time, picking up apartments, get another $4,000 reinvested, all that gets written off 100% as depreciation or rent expenses. So the depreciation part of that, Derek will add that back into your income. Even though you didn't pay any taxes on it, you claim $0 in profit. Since you say 40,000 of it was depreciation, when you go to a lender, they'll go, oh, let's add this depreciation back in because they actually have the cash. They just took a discount on depreciation. So you could basically use a rental arbitrage strategy to snowball your incomes, not just your cash flow, but like the income that you can use for a loan, and then take it to the bank and get underwritten before. So that's my add-on for him. So add-on for yours. Yours was fun, property management, right? So infrastructure is important, right? When you're running an Airbnb business, it doesn't matter if you own it or if you arbitrage it. Basically, you have a property, you furnish it, you put it on the platform, and you deal with your guests. For your situation, he got $15,000 back from Airbnb because he did everything right. And that's, the question is, how do you do this right? Let's say you don't want to have a party house, right? So Sean's cool with it, Sean's prepared with it, but let's say you have a house that's party capable and somebody throws a rager and you didn't know, right? That's what we're all afraid of, right? So in this case, you'll need to have a couple things on the back end, right? You'll need proof that more people came. So you'll need to have like a camera system set up that you can turn on and like surveil that there actually are people. So what we do is we put a blink camera, it's an XT2, we put a blink camera facing the front door so we can crank that thing on and record and see how many people are coming in and out. We can identify that. There's also another device, and I don't remember the name of it, but I'll get it for you. It will count the number of devices that are active in your home. It's Wi-Fi connected cell phones. And Airbnb will honor that. Be like, well, I've got 67 cell phones in my house right now. So if you have proof that there's people, video or other technology that Airbnb authorizes, you'll take that to them and say, this is the proof, and now I need my money. But in order for you to get your money, you need to put it in two places. You have house rules on your Airbnb listing. Your house rules are, you can put what I would call a fee schedule. If they trash your place beyond a normal tenant, you have an extra cleaning fee. If they smoke, you can put a smoking fee. If they bring pets, you can have a per day pet fee, etc. And then you can have an extra person's fee. Any unauthorized guest is this many dollars per guest. But in addition, you shouldn't stop there because Airbnb has a, in their pricing section, you can put what your base rate is, right? It's $150 per night. You scroll down a little bit, you notice that there's a charge per guest and after a certain number. So in a home of mine where I can have like 10 people, I'll say after 10 persons, I'm going to charge $40 per person. And that goes into actually my pricing listing, like my pricing settings. Even though somebody couldn't search for 11, they'll never pay that by declaring their guests, but if they on the back end to try to sneak people in, it's in my pricing schedule. So I've got 2 spots where I tell Airbnb, it's there. Like, you guys have to take it from this guest. And because you do your due diligence, even if the guest doesn't pay you, Airbnb will then, if you do it right, pay you. Now, a lot of people get lost in the resolution part of it. Let's say you have a theft, and then you have a smoking fee, like that you want to assess. Somebody steals the TV, then you also want to charge them $200. When you go and do a resolution on Airbnb, the person who tells you that they'll pay for the stolen TV, that's a different department than the department that will pay you for the smoking fee. So they'll tell you no for the smoking fee. So when they respond and say, yeah, we'll pay you for the TV, but we can't enforce your house rules, you actually say, hey, well, thanks for your side. I actually need to be transferred to the other, like guest experience or trust and safety, and split those into 2 separate resolutions. So when you have a baddie like that, you split it into 2 sections. So that's what's up with that. One thing that I use in pretty much all my listings now is something called a point system. If you want to prevent parties, a point system, it looks like a smoke detector, and it does a few things, but the main one that people like is noise detection. And so if it gets too loud in your home, you'll know. And like volume is a precursor to all sorts of problems. They may not be throwing a party, but they may just be the wrong type of guest. And in my experience, noise is a symptom of things are going to go wrong. Let's say somebody's having a fight, there's a domestic violence issue. Guys yelling and throwing furniture, it'll kick your noise filter. So I would recommend putting a point system in if you want to prevent parties or prevent any bad things. A Blink is a good camera system. If I can find the name of the Wi-Fi connection thing, I'll give that to you. And the cheapest way to get the point system is through some of you might know if you've seen the video, they gave us a 25% off code. It's Sean, SEAN 25. Unlimited number of devices. You buy 100 of them, they'll give you 25% off some toys. So it is now the cheapest, with that discount, the cheapest noise thing on the market. So that's my recommendations for you there. And remember, split your resolutions if people do some complex stuff. On the property management side, I will say you guys have something cool going on, and I'm going to try not to throw too much of my own stuff in conflict, because I like this setup. You can buy a house with Sean, get approved, and you'll manage it. This sounds like something that could happen. So if you want to buy a home and you're not good at Airbnb yet, this is the way to go. If you're building it as a business, it's all about cost reductions, right? Operational strategy, streamlining your business. So if you have one home, it's going to cost you more money to clean one home than if you had 10, right? The way that I build my business is I try to get to scale, and then I try to buy people at a discount with the work that they do. If I had to hire a cleaning company for one home, it'll cost $65, $120 for a cleaning. But if you have 10 homes and you pay somebody full time to work for you, you can get them at an hourly rate, right? And that'll drastically buy down your costs. I do the same thing with property management. So I pay one person per city salary to run the business, and the more properties I can pick up in that city, the less it costs me per house on average for my property management. And right now it costs me $12 per week per property for my property management. When you only have 1 or 2 properties, it's impossible to pay somebody's salary, because you pay them $700 a week to be your property manager. You're paying $350 a week per house, no way. So by piecemealing it, by kind of having one property manager that does it, it's almost like how, there's personal assistants that'll actually, they're professional personal assistants, they'll work with you a couple hours of the week, but they'll have a book of people you don't know. Kind of the same thing. And my recommendation for you guys is if you want to buy down your cleaning costs and you only have 1 or 2 properties, get on Facebook, try to find a host group in your city or create one, and then ask hosts, hey, who here wants to hire a housekeeper with me? Who wants to do a housekeeper share? And that way you can get up to 10 properties and all of you can share that housekeeper and collectively buy down your costs. It's almost like you're unionizing. So that'd be my recommendation for you guys.
That's what Anthony did.
Oh, you guys are sharing?
He found an Airbnb. He found an Airbnb cleaner, and then they said that they'll discount the rate if he recommends them to other people. He recommended me, so they give me just.
And that's the best way to do it is to because some of you probably aren't even from Dallas. Who here's from out of town? Yeah, nice guys. Thanks for driving. It's awesome. So yeah, in your cities, do that. So with his strategy, he's looking at 4 different types of incomes on the home. The difference between buying and renting, right, and arbitrage is you don't get any debt paid up, right? That's probably one of the biggest ones, right? I'm paying $1,200 for my rent, he's paying $1,200 for his mortgage, and he cuts ahead there. But that NOI is still the same, right? So any money that I make above and beyond the rent and the utilities, that's still hard cash that goes back in my bank account, just the same that would go in the owner's bank account. So when you're looking at whether or not you should buy or whether or not you should arbitrage, it's really how do you plan on using your money, right? you got in for $58,000 on this home, right? So I don't want to get into too much numbers because my side can get really sick if you're good at this, but I'm thinking of 63 properties in Philadelphia right now. I'm getting the first 6 to 8 weeks free on all of those properties, and I'm getting below market rate because I negotiated it with the owners. One building, I'm taking the whole building, right? So I'm like, this is what I'm going to pay you for your building, right? So by doing that, I'm getting into a building for $0 plus furniture, right? So at say $3,500 per unit in furniture at scale, I'm getting 28 units for about $68,000, and 28 units at $3,000 per month revenue, you're looking at like $90,000 a month-ish, $80,000 to $90,000 a month. When I start paying rents week 8, I'm paying $32,000 a month in rents to have $80,000 to $90,000 in cash flow. I will pay off my 60-something thousand in furniture within the first 6 weeks, and I can put that 60-something, that 68,000 back into the game again if I wanted to and snowball it, right? So the difference with arbitrage and owning is it is faster to go active with arbitrage because you go to a building that's new. Lease-ups are great because they're brand new, but they have nobody in there. If you say, hey, I'll take 20 units in your 200-unit building that you have 5 people in so far, they're like, we're gonna go from 5 to 25? Score. And they'll give you terms. That's really good. Or a guy's like, yeah, I'll take your whole building. He's like, done, right? I got one tenant, I'm out. So in that case, you can scale up because the building's good. You don't have to go through your nightmare situation for 5 months of repairing a property. I guess that is the risk on the ownership side, right? You get so many advantages like 1031s, right? You get that like-in-kind transfer where you buy a house for $200,000, it becomes worth $500,000, you sell it, and then buy another house that's worth like $2 million. You don't have to pay all this taxes on the way up. That's super cool. But there's also the risks of having to fix stuff on the way in. So if you're gonna buy a property, or if you're gonna rent, actually I had a consulting call with a guy in California. He couldn't get his first deal, right? He's knocking on doors, doing the homeowner strategy. Like, so there's a couple guys out there that sell courses and they don't talk about apartments, they just talk about houses. So he's knocking on doors with landlords trying to get into a home. 18 said no, the 19th said yes, but it was like a slumlord. He signed the agreement too quickly, he got in, and the place could not be Airbnb. The place was trash. So he had to, because he signed a lease that said that he was responsible for all repairs, so he got just worked, right? He had to, pretty much the same thing that a homeowner has to go through, which is you got this home, you want to turn it into an Airbnb, and it needs $10,000 worth of work. He was stuck with a lease and $10,000 worth of work. So no matter if you're buying or if you're renting, interview your landlord, right? You want to find out what kind of landlord you are, because I have one in Philadelphia that doesn't want to repair anything. She had a contractor that put like, you know the plaster of Paris, the white stuff? They did contract work and somebody flushed it down the toilet. And it blocked the pipe, right? So we went live, and after we went live, that toilet started clogging. Just every little thing started clogging. We spent $2,500 on, like, we replaced the toilet and everything. So thank God Philadelphia is a repair and deduct state, so we were able to repair it. Told her, once we found out it wasn't our fault, we told her, hey, we put a camera down the pipe, pay us our money back, and she said no. So we're like, well, we'll just take it out of the rent. And she wanted to battle, and we had to take her to court, and it was fun. So interview your landlord, because you don't want to have to take your landlord to court for repairs. Apartment complexes, homes are the same thing. But interview the home, in a way, right? If you're going to buy a house and you want to Airbnb it, check for those types of things. Be like, if I'm going to be staying here like it's a hotel, what is wrong? Because the last thing you want to do is buy a home and end up with that 5-month deep problem, right? So your only mistake really is that you didn't walk through, or somebody else didn't walk through and go, wow, this thing's not going to be able to go live, right? It's probably a really good home purchase for like forced appreciation, right? You probably got that out of the deal, right?
It's a bad contract.
A bad contract.
And a bad contract. How much did you make on forced appreciation on your home?
70.
And what percentage growth was that in your property?
I forgot that number. That was, I bought it for $315.
So $70,000 of appreciation on a $315,000 home, right?
But ask her what she's planning on selling the property now.
So where did you get in for, and now what are you going to get out for?
So I put the 5% down, so like my upfront cost $18,000 on it. Total loan is for $430. I think it's gonna appraise for close to $6,000.
So she could sell at $170,000 profit, and don't do that on $430. Do that on $18,000, right? Because that's really all she paid, right? You get in for $18,000. Her loan covered the construction, so she made $130,000 on $18,000. That's the flip, right? So there is good on that side. But if you don't want to like go through her kind of hellish situation, and like forced appreciation isn't part of your strategy, then really go through with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that your property's safe. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, because with yours, I don't actually want to talk about that second house, that wasn't my point. You're making money long-term on yours. You're making money party house style. And if some of you are wondering, well, how do you take the same property and decide which way to go, right? It's pricing strategy. Pricing strategy drives consumer behavior. So in her case, she had a really attractive monthly price. So somebody booked it by the month. Now, her danger here is you probably didn't understand the nature of discounts well enough. So you might have, did you have a monthly discount? What was your monthly discount?
I think it's 40%. 40%.
So 40%, you got 3,000-ish for it?
35.
3,500. So they basically, if somebody wanted to spend it by the night, it'd be like 600 a night, right?
No, 250.
It was 250 a night? Okay, so in her case, somebody could book one night for $250 and it would have killed their ability to get that deal, right? You would have lost your $10,000 now $30,000 potential client because of a one $300 reservation, right? So if you guys want to drive monthly bookings, you jack up your nightly rates and especially your weekend rates, right? Your weekend rate should be double of whatever the market is, and then you will have a discount of like 55% or 60% as a monthly discount instead of at 35%. So now, if somebody, and you could do a weekly one of like a discount of 40%. So by jacking up those rates, you're not losing your searchability, because if you guys have watched a lot of my videos, you do SEO, you want to still be on the market for everybody to see you. So by doing a 2-night or 3-night minimum, you won't show up when people are searching, and thus your SEO and your ranking will go down. So the best way to still perform well on Airbnb and get on the first page, but prevent like a bad booking, is to price out of the market. And people who are curious to see what a $1,000 per night property looks like will click on you. So the window shoppers actually help for your ranking. And then when finally the right customer comes in with a 10-day search or longer, that number that ends up after discount is finally competitive. And so manage your pricing strategy that way. One tip too, let's say she had a 2-week-long booking, right? And then she had some last minute availability today, tomorrow, and then like 2 days from now, somebody's coming in for 14 days, and they're gonna pay a king's ransom for your 14 days. Well, the last thing you want is a $35 guest that trashes the place and loses you a $3,000 booking, right? So there's something called rule sets on Airbnb. If you go into your calendar, you're changing prices and you're toggling with it, at the bottom, it'll say rule sets. Add a rule set. You can add a one-time rule set and make one up, or you can name them and reuse them. So what you can do is if you have 3 days available and you want to get some money for it, but you don't want some trashy, low-priced person, you can drop the rate to something really affordable, but make the minimum night 3 nights. So this 3 nights will be uncharacteristically low, 20% of your market rate, but only if they book all 3 nights. So you'll either get some money or you won't, but that some money you'll get will be from somebody staying a few days. And the longer a reservation, the less likely that there are going to be vagrants. It's most likely the case. Combine that with like a point system for anti-noise, so you know if these low-priced people are going to ruin your property. As soon as they start to get loud and do stupid stuff, you show up and you boot them. And if you have to refund them part of their stay, okay, their stay was what, $50, $70 a night, you're not losing a lot of money. Because preventing losing your big reservations is big, because when that party happened, you were at risk of losing other bookings, I would imagine, right? And if you lost a $2,000 per night booking because somebody trashed your place, that's huge. Loss of future revenue is really what you're trying to prevent with your pricing strategy here. You want to stay 100% occupied, but you don't want to you don't want to betray your best paying customers. So those are the things I wanted to share with you based on what I've heard. And without getting to any future tirades, I think we maybe have a little time for Q&A.
We have a little bit of time for Q&A. Thank you very much, Sean. And then, if you guys do want to see that tenant that came to my house and did a rap video, I don't know how it's possible,
It's on YouTube.
but his cleaning manager just sent it to us like a couple days after they came, and she found his rap video. So if you guys want to see that rap video, reach out to Sean and send you the link in the description. So it's pretty much, they got guns, and doing drugs. I'm like,
Oh.
And the hook was, I gave my plug 5 stacks counterfeit, right?
Yeah, you paid for your MVP counterfeit too.
He 3-1 were lost on that. All right, so because we want to respect your timeline, let's jump right into questions.
And try to keep the questions short, and then we're gonna try to keep the answers short as well.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Like I have a house in Arlington and it's not a
You guys wanted to leave, by the way.
Airbnb friendly
Yeah.
place. But if I rent it to you long time and you do your Airbnb, would that work?
Yes and no. They will still be on you for allowing me to do it, but there's a couple ways around it. What's the minimum night stay in Arlington? Do they say like it's 30-day minimum, nobody can stay less than
Yeah, it's 30 days.
Okay, so what I do is I sign a 30-day lease with all my single, 2, 3, 4 night tenants, and I also sign a lease termination agreement and give them their lease termination agreement on arrival. My lease will then have a 0-day, $0 cancellation fee, and it's a month-to-month lease, starting with 30 days. So I can always furnish my 30-day lease, but I've already let them out of it. And so so basically they have protection from recourse from me if I was trying to pull a fast one, because I already gave them their lease termination agreement.
But on the website, you rent it only for a weekend, not for the whole month.
They can't tell if it's a booking or if you blocked it off for maintenance or repairs. They have no clue. So you're good there.
All right.
As long as you can show that paperwork. You know, the building's like, blah, like, no, this is a month-to-month lease contract. But I got with these people. So it's all about how you do your paperwork.
Okay.
I had a question for Josh.
Yeah, what's going on?
When you have, let's say you're renting out and you're booked up, let's say for the week, and you found out that your last renter damaged something, then how do you handle like getting someone in to do the maintenance like really quick? I mean, how do you handle that?
Yeah, so this is just personally how I manage my system. So if it's something that's like immediate, right? I'll do a immediate repair if you hire me, for example, just so that it's at least suitable for the guests to arrive. And then I call around. I have a couple of different I have a list of a couple plumbers, a couple handymen, and I'll call them around, see which ones are going to be available for the soonest time frame, and then that's basically what I do. So just because like I said, the way that I do it, I make sure that it's at least good enough to book. And then from there, I find the soonest thing to do. So it's not always immediate, but we at least make sure that it's possible.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I have a question for Sean Rock, but he's behind you.
Yes. Yes, my man.
Yes, sir.
Real quick, while I want to cover this. She's asking if we can do one in Houston. Well, for all you people in Houston, we've been talking about it. If there's enough demand, we can do one in Houston. Maybe in the next month or two.
I think there's a WeWork office in Houston, so I can just kind of say, hey, we're going to use this office.
Yeah, and then and then she also asked for my business card. Again, if you guys want to reach out to me, just find me up on Instagram, John Realty, and that's good.
Your question.
Yes, sir. Which service or what kind of data analytics do you use to know which market is hot to invest in?
I hand research. So, fun question. Take cities that you're going to speculate are good, right? And you're going to do your own research on those cities. What matters is what the average revenue per night is per listing, what the occupancy percentage is, and what the rent costs are in the arbitrage related. So if you're going to spend $1,500 in rent, and the average rent per night is $200, and the average occupancy is 50%, then you've got $3,000 back on $1,500. That's just like ballpark numbers. And you can do that on airdna.co for free if you wanted to just quickly skim. You can't get the rent rates, so you'll have to do your research on what the rental market is in each market, but you can get the average nightly rate and the average occupancy in seasonality. But what I'll do is I'll look for where supply and demand kind of drops, and a lot of people kind of just skip this idea. A studio is different than a 3-bedroom home, right? So even though Dallas might be flooded with studios, it might be shy on 3-bedroom homes. You might have a gap in the market that's underserviced. Even though Airbnb is overserviced, there might still be an accommodation size that's underserviced, right? So find the cities that you like where the numbers just generally look good. Then as a traveler, go onto Airbnb like you're traveling, search for 2 guests, look at the map view, zoom the map view into the neighborhood you think would be hot on Airbnb based on like points of interest, like convention centers, stuff like that. So zoom into that map view and it'll tell you, hey, 240 listings in this area that can house 2 guests or more. And then go up to 3 and then 4 and then 5 and keep refreshing that search. You'll notice at one point going from 6 guests to 7 in this area, there'll be 130 homes at 6 guests and there'll be like 50 homes at 7 guests. Huge supply drop, right? So I'll attack the market at 7 guests or better because of that supply drop. So then I'll vet that out. I'll start looking at different listings that can host 7 guests. I'll get in their calendar by checking availability. I'll see what the pricing strategy is, because when you go to book, it'll show you if it's a 2-day, 3-day minimum. It'll show you what their weekday rates are, what their weekend rates are. You can reverse engineer somebody's pricing strategy and just know generally how occupied they are 4 to 6 weeks out by looking at their listing. And you can see if the listing's good. Are the photos great? What are the amenities? So now you can really kind of get a comprehensive look at that neighborhood and see who you're competing with at the 7-guest hypothetical market. And you might find, like I did research in Alabama and Fort Lauderdale most recently for some clients. And Huntsville, Alabama, and the biggest city next to Huntsville, people are making like $9,000 or $10,000 a month on a 3-bedroom home. Fort Lauderdale in the summer, people are making $18,000 to $35,000 a month on homes in Fort Lauderdale. It's insane. But the seasonality is bad, so you're going to maybe make $6,000 a month on the same home in Fort Lauderdale that would make $30,000, right? So AirDNA will give you seasonality, so you can see like that drop. So you can still reference AirDNA's basic data against that deep dive that you did, and that'll allow you to know after you've picked the cities you like, you can then go, okay, is this neighborhood really going to work for me at this guest size?
Thank you.
Here we go, about 5-10 minutes. Quick and easy questions, quick and easy.
Hey, Holly. I know Sean, I believe, in Smurf House, he rents by the room. Why did you decide to rent, sounds like the entire place, instead of just by the room? Because I know there's, travel nurses, pilots nearby,
Right,
all
and I
that.
actually have gotten interest from that subgroup. Honestly, I didn't even have a chance. I put it up and 3 days later it was booked. Wow.
Okay.
And like literally it's been booked straight now. It's gonna be for 8 solid months. So I think that is a very valid option because you're right, there is a ton of traveling nurses here. And it's as simple as putting, your information up on their information boards there. Being a crash pad for flight attendants, pilots, that is absolutely a great option. And you can really, honestly, you'll make more money that way. You just will. But it was really, I just wanted to get it up, put it up, and then
When that happens. Yeah.
so I think that's the only reason. Otherwise, because my plan was, okay, let's get a couple of Airbnb weirds behind me so I can feel like confident with what I'm doing, and then I'll start playing with putting up room by room. I just haven't ever had the opportunity.
Got it. Yeah. And then I want to say a quick quote by Holly that I loved. Is that I came in here, whatever. She's like, I got to list this, and I was like, you haven't put anything on the walls. Like, why haven't you not decorated this? And then why is it only 1 bed per room? These are big rooms. You should put 2 beds in a room. You should maximize profit. And her response to me was like, I just haven't needed to. I'm like, all right, valid point.
So, but to expand on this, because you did ask Holly a question kind of on our perspective, but data would show that by renting the entire place, you'll make more money than renting it by the room. There's something called RevPAR, which is revenue per available room, and if you rent a private room out, it'll make 60% less on average per bed available than if you rent the entire space. So an entire space is kind of like a premium. And so renting an available room last minute, let's say you have a 4-bedroom house that you try to get $500 per night for, well today, you're not gonna get somebody for $500 today, highly unlikely. So like last minute, you could chop it up into private rooms and get a lot of last minute travelers, almost like hostel style, where smaller groups book more last minute, big groups book more in advance. So you can do both with your home, but really prioritize your full listing and get that $500 a night 2 months, 3 months out. And then this week, you can take that availability and chop it up into private rooms if you wanted to mix it.
And I just want to clarify, the Smurf house, I did do that when I lived there and I was house hacking it. But yeah, once I put it as a full house, I went from on average like 2,000 to like 22 or so per month. I can't remember as well ago. And then now I'm averaging like 35 to 5,000, but normally about 35 to 45 a month. And that's when you do the entire house. So the entire house is a lot more profitable. Because whenever you do the single rooms, they're all competing with each other. If someone's like looking for the revenue of the 2 bedrooms, the 1 bedrooms, then this one's $75 and this is $50. So yeah, it is difficult to make as much money as the single rooms. Okay, anybody else? Yep.
Regarding the rental arbitrage, you said you do a lot of write-offs. Do you have to structure all that under an LLC or?
You could do it through your social as a sole prop and still count it as a business, I think.
Sole proprietor.
Yeah, I would still get an LLC. His tax attorney or tax, I basically call him a tax attorney because he's so like sick, but JR would tell you to get an LLC anyway, right? So by having an LLC, there's a lot of ways to kind of segregate stuff, and what you pay for can get like classified differently. And in my world, there's an advantage to being an LLC because you bypass subletting law in some states. Because the way that the subletting law is written in some states, a company cannot sublet because a company is not a person to sublet. Other states, subletting is just the act of the lease having a sublease, but in some states, it's the act of a person having a sublease. So LLCs can actually bypass some law inherently. So I recommend an LLC just because there's a few.
Cool.
If you have a 3-bedroom house, would you, in addition to having the full house being listed, have 3 additional listings for each individual bedroom being active at the same time? And for security purposes, would you have a keypad on each individual door?
I mean,
He does this.
I did it.
He did.
So I bought a
This is
duplex.
Anthony Morrison, everybody. He's my first client that we did this experiment with.
Hello. So I bought a duplex and I house hacked it. So I lived in one unit and then I furnished the other unit to put on Airbnb. So I ended up putting, a keypad on the front door and keypad on each room. And I had the whole floor or the whole unit up on Airbnb, and then I had each room as separate listings. So I had 4 whole listings on there. Had the main unit up for like 6 months out, and then I didn't put the single rooms up until about 2 weeks out is when I opened them up, and I had them linked, so anytime the whole unit was blocked or booked, it would block the other rooms, or if a room was booked, then it would block the whole unit. And so I opened it up and I'd have them at cheaper prices, so that way they just kind of fill in whatever holes I was missing. Then after a year, I moved out and I put the whole building, so both units up for like a ridiculous price, like $800 a night. And then I had both units up, and I just kind of been doing that same strategy just with the separate units and the whole building. And I haven't even opened up the single rooms in like 6 months, because I just kind of do it on a bigger scale. But with just one house with 3 beds, then yeah, I totally recommend that, because you can get as much revenue as possible with the whole house, and then you just kind of fill in the holes and just kind of increase your revenue with each room.
So Brandon drove from Austin, so let him ask a question. He's put some miles just to come here.
Quickly before he does that, if you guys want to hear his story and how he got started, I do have multiple YouTube videos on how he started step by step. You can see how the house got renovated from all the way up to now, and how he's pulling in around $9,000 a month off of one property.
Yeah, thank you. So I know for a lot of people trying to get into their first rental arbitrage, you do have to have a LLC, so that way you can sign a lease with the property. How do you overcome that? I know one of your videos you talk about Venmoing money to each other. I do have, I guess, doesn't that look like income on the LLC that needs to be taxed? So how do you get around all of that to make sure that you're not in the hole when trying to get an LLC
Because the money
started?
going out is an expense, and the money coming in would be your income. So the money out, washes out.
So it would equal? Okay.
And LLCs can do something called capitalizing, which is where you invest money into your LLC over time. So you can put money into the business, and that money that you put into the business is not income because you capitalized it. So that initial money that goes into Venmo, for this Venmo kind of transfer in and out, isn't taxable because you capitalized your LLC. And then that money back and forth is like
Return to capital.
yeah, yes. You probably know more about this than I do. Yeah, I'm operating at a very low level, just enough to be dangerous on this, but yes, basically, from my understanding is, you by putting money into an LLC, it's not taxable, and then that back and forth isn't taxable because there's actually no profit.
Okay. And my second part to that question, very quickly, is I know a lot of apartments want to have like a 2 years of revenue, right? They want to have history on the LLC. Is there a way to get around that when you have a just fresh LLC, or is there?
Honestly, lots of my apartments only ask for 3 months or 4 months of bank statements.
Okay.
A lot of them. the big deal that I'm doing in Philadelphia with the entire, so the first big deal I did in Philadelphia, they wanted 1 year for 20 apartments. And that's the most strict any struck deal has been. There's some that are asking for more, like more financials than that for like the entire building that I'm doing that we're wrapping up on, but 1 year's been the longest anybody's asked me for in a regular renting sense. But 3 months, 4 months tends to be good enough if you give them bank statements.